Hello and welcome to the Paper Boys podcast. I'm JJ Smith.
And I'm Zach Nally.
We're reporters with the Carteret County News-Times. We're joined this week by a newly minted member of the West Carteret Athletics Hall of Fame, Mr. Kris Linder. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
So here's my favorite thing about Kris is back in the day, he makes the Hall of Fame because he was a pretty decent baseball player. I guess you gotta be a pretty decent baseball player.
They make some pretty good baseball players at West Carteret.
They do. And I mean, we're talking like this is a school that's been around for 60 years, and he's probably like one of the top 10 baseball players in school history. Maybe top 5. Maybe that's a podcast we'll do in the future.
There you go.
And so, big time. I mean, he's not acting big time. He was far from acting big time, but big time.
Sure. But
he would be quickly brought back down to earth in the fall when he would play football because his head coach was John Lancaster. And John Lancaster is known for giving people grief. Yours truly included. There's not a time I haven't seen him that he's not busting my chops about something. So, Kris is batting like 500 in the spring. He's conference player of the year, comes out in the football team. And what was his nickname for you?
Kicker boy.
Kicker boy. Yeah.
Despite also playing wide receiver at times, right? I mean, so
senior year especially.
That's right. Yeah.
Up at that point.
Football coaches aren't always kind to kickers, but they'll take your points, won't they? Your extra points, and if you miss them, they'll let you know. So.
Yeah, you didn't get the big head around John Lancaster, did you?
No, you can't. That's the type of person he is. He's not going to let you be that way, which is awesome.
Right.
Humbling.
I was going to say, no threat of you getting the big head, was it?
No shot. I'm excited to see him tonight. He said he could make it to the reception, so I'm really looking forward to seeing him.
Yeah, y'all's having the reception tonight, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are.
Kris Linder, the football player, he kicked 59 PATs a junior and senior, and then senior year, took off that kicking shoe and decided to catch some balls and
and this was a run-heavy team, right?
Right. I know, it's funny, right? You said led the team in catches and yards, and the catches was 18.
We had a couple running backs in the backfield that were doing some good stuff.
They were running the rock back in the days at West Carteret.
They were. Trevor, Juju, Mike Johnson.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But still fun to be out there and maybe do something different than kicking.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was a good time. I wish I did it for a little bit prior to that junior year and 2 years. But no, it was a lot of fun. Loved meeting the new teammates. Had a blast for those 2 years.
So Kris comes out to West Carteret and hits 440 right off the bat. I don't know.
You talking about a freshman?
Yeah. How many times have me and you seen somebody?
No, not at that rate. Not as a freshman. Well, no. I mean, you gotta, even if they make the varsity team. You expect them to be talented, but they're not going to.
Yeah, even a freshman making varsity is pretty
below the stats off the page or anything.
So, did you come into West Carteret thinking I'm going to come in there and hit 440 as a freshman?
Not at all. No, not at all. I mean, obviously, I'm super happy that I did.
Yeah.
And was able to contribute to that 14-0 team.
Right.
It's an incredible run.
Yeah.
But no, that was exceeding expectations by a long shot.
Well, I'm curious. Even making varsity, did that exceed your expectations?
Yeah, I mean, I knew I had a chance at least to go in, but I mean, obviously nothing's guaranteed. So try it out, and fortunately was able to make the team. And I mean, you guys know what happened from there.
Had anything Morehead City Middle? I'm assuming.
Yes.
Had anything your 8th grade year there show you that that's something that was possible for freshman year?
Not exactly. No, I would say that kind of came out of the blue.
Okay.
I mean, middle school was good and had solid team and solid competition and all that, but nothing on the same level as the varsity.
Well, you certainly put a good return on that investment for Robbie Lassiter and the staff there to say we give this freshman kid a chance to go at the plate.
Speaking of coaches that can bust chops, Robbie Lassiter and Michael Turner.
He didn't blow any sunshine.
What's it like playing for those guys?
Every coach just about was very humbling. You could not get a big head around them, which was all in good fun.
And then I love the fact that he was inducted last night during the North Pit halftime. And I love that they included that, and I love the expression on Kris's face. Broke his leg his sophomore year. Kris's big smile, like, oh, thanks for including that.
Right.
It's like out of all the things to come up.
How did you break your leg?
Sliding into second base.
Oh, no.
Yeah, during a game. Yeah. Did you know when it happened that it was bad?
Yeah. Just, I think I walked off the field. I mean, it was just a spiral fracture, down low on the ankle, but foot got caught, cleat got caught in the dirt, and it just kind of rolled on.
Missed most of your season that season, right?
I think all of it until a playoff game.
Okay.
So, and this was a couple weeks into the start of the season, so yeah.
Well, if you're going to miss a season with an injury, I feel like sophomore is a Yeah, you don't want to miss your junior and senior year. You want to get impressive numbers up and get noticed and that sort of thing. And I'm wondering, did rehab give you a chance to kind of, when you came back as a junior, did you feel like you came back stronger?
Yeah, I think so. Tough to beat the freshman year.
Sure.
But, I think my junior season also competed with the level of productivity as the freshman year. So it was a nice break to just kind of be able to, not that I didn't want to play at all, but to be able to take a step back and kind of learn some more while observing my other teammates and the guys that were senior to me. So it was a nice break. I guess kind of like I don't know, Bryce Young comes to mind.
Sure.
Sitting under like the senior quarterback.
I'm of the belief that that's going to help him. I do think that's going to be. But you talk about not being able to beat your freshman expectations, but the numbers were better. You hit 470 as a junior. Was at the top of most offensive categories, including leading the team in runs, 26, and had 11 stolen bases. So you certainly came back and proved that freshman year wasn't a fluke.
Right. Yeah, that was just the injury was just temporary. I wouldn't say any long-term setbacks. Obviously happy to get back after it junior year and keep contributing to the team.
What point this is, you graduated, 13?
13.
So freshman year was
10?
10 was the season.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Gosh, you're old, Kris.
I was getting there.
2010.
Trying to get you to remember stuff from 14 years ago.
Turned 30 in 2 months.
Oh, nice. Get breaking out of those 20s.
Yeah.
So do you recall any point that freshman year when you were like, oh, okay, I belong here. I know what I'm doing?
Yeah. So, it was a little daunting at first, for sure, like being a freshman.
You're what, 14, 13?
Yeah, very young compared to everyone else. But, that team was incredible, like the way they brought me in and just were able to provide that fellowship, I guess, as a member of the team. Like it was never that I was an outcast or a freshman as a new guy, like in a derogatory way or anything. There was some of that for joking purposes, but no, the team was incredible. I'd fit in with them, I would say, like even on the playing level as far as like productivity goes. But I couldn't have done it without them, and they easily could have not brought me in and not made me feel that way. And there were just everyone all around was some incredible guys I loved playing with.
Had you already met some of those guys in Legion Ball that summer before, maybe?
Yes. Yeah. So I was familiar with some of them, mostly in the junior class, I believe. Dalton Knight, Damon Hoggard, Jonathan Campbell, Josh Chisenhall, those guys. And I know there's a lot more out there that I'm not naming. But, so I was familiar with them to an extent. I'd never played with them really before, like outside of Little League, which was a long time ago at that point, even more so now. But no, just incredible guys, incredible teammates, and look forward to when I'm home to seeing them as much as possible.
Well, and you talked about expectations too, not only of yourself, but you grew up in Moorhead?
I did.
So you grew up seeing we just had Lonnie Chisenhall in here a few weeks ago, and what that group was able to do with not only West Carter but American Legion. So stepping into two programs, but a program that is had high expectations already. So was any part of the reputation of the school and its program part of that transition in?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I remember when I was younger, I guess grade school and middle school and all that, going out to the high school and running the scoreboard for all of those games.
Oh, wow.
Or a lot of them. So seeing Lonnie and Drew Polk and CJ Fallon and those guys just compete at that level, it was definitely instilling some inspiration to be able to one day compete in that same way.
And of course, a lot of those guys ended up going on to play in college. And was there ever a point during your junior year that you felt like you were capable of making that leap as well?
Yeah, there was. I got in the travel ball and doing the showcase stuff, and that stuff was not nearly as fun as high school and Legions. Just you have a bunch of guys that are coming together. You don't know anyone else. You're just coming there for honestly selfish reasons. Like, you want to promote yourself.
Sure.
So the team aspect of that baseball was not the most fun, although I won't say it wasn't necessary by any means. Just comparing and contrasting the two types, like high school and Legion, you did it for your teammates, the other guys, much more holistic and team atmosphere. Showcase, it was very beneficial, but
different mindset.
Exactly. Different perspective, different mindset as far as team mentality goes. But it just makes you appreciate the high school and Legion ball so much more.
43-13 in conference during Kris Linder's time at West Carteret. That's pretty good.
That's not bad for West Carteret, just baseball.
But funny enough, when we had Lonnie on, and Kris might not even know this, how bizarre it was that before him and Drew Polk came along.
Right, it was not like that.
And at that point, they had been around for 40 years, had never won a conference never won a conference championship.
Really?
When they won it in 06, I think was the first one. Had never won a playoff game.
Wow.
Yeah, the big school's been around since like 65. So it's incredible because now all we think of is West Carteret winning a conference championship every freaking year.
Well, and we see that
going
now.
to playoffs.
Yeah.
Lonnie Chisenhall, Drew Polk, Kris
That's right.
Linder, Joe Mason, Josh Mason. I mean, my gosh, it just players of the year going to. I think in the time I've been in the paper, they've sent might be double digits Division I. That's incredible. Kris Linder being one of them.
I'd say that's a lot due to coaching.
Robbie Laster and Michael Turner, they did what they were doing. Brooks Jernigan.
Yep.
Y'all always had a staff of like 7 in the dugout, it felt like.
Mike Small, too.
Yeah, Mike Small's been around for a while.
He came in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, just an incredible group of coaches that just made the game. I mean, they were incredibly demanding. Don't get me wrong. Like, they expected the best at all times, which is necessary. But down-to-earth people that you could have a conversation with outside of baseball and just like any other person, which, I mean, I've had some coaches that isn't always the case like that. It just makes you want to play for those coaches that you're able to connect with so much more and play harder for them, and it's just a lot more inspirational. So, yeah, I'd say I was very lucky to have the coaches that I did during that time period, and I mean, I would attribute the success of the high school and Legion programs to the coaching.
Who were you starting to look at junior year, senior year, and recruiting started to heat up?
Let's see. So UNCW and UNC Charlotte were a couple options, and then just being local, I wanted to pursue East Carolina and NC State. Obviously,
you were looking at like an engineering degree, right?
I was, yeah. So unfortunately, UNCW didn't have an
You really
only so
engineering
many
program.
options there.
Yeah, I was
for
going to
that,
say,
yeah.
you started to hack off some schools there, didn't you?
So,
Yeah.
which, I mean, who knows if that was the right decision. Like, I ended up at West Point and went systems engineering as my degree. Whether or not baseball would have been different at UNCW, like, who's to say? I mean, they have some really incredible teams as well. But yeah, I wasn't really looking at out-of-state schools, really, and
The Army was kind of a surprise for you, right?
it was, yeah. So actually,
If you would have been nailed down during junior, senior year, and somebody said, where were you going before they come on the scene, where do you think you said you would have went?
probably UNC Charlotte.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Because and that was about when they had just started the new engineering program there, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they had a little bit of history, and also it was looking to progress as well. So, I mean, it's definitely looking at it from the academic standpoint in addition to the athletic standpoint as well. But yeah, I was not looking a whole lot out of state. But yeah, you asked when Army reached out. I was like, Army? I didn't even know that was a school. Like,
Sure.
Like what? How does that work?
I mean, the Army, or like I don't understand.
Right. It's like
I'm trying to go to college.
I want to play baseball in college.
Yeah.
like, who?
Well, and they saw you at the state games.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. So I learned a lot more in the few months after that, but initial thoughts were like, I mean, I'd thought about joining the Army like as an option, but I'd never like seriously given consideration to it.
Did you have family in the military?
Not really. No, nothing immediate. Had some teammates at that point that were planning on joining the Army or already had. So what really sold me on it was went on an official visit up there, and I think this was, I don't know, maybe summer between June.
I was going to say, when it's not winter, I'm sure it's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful in the winter time too,
but also cold.
It's brutally cold.
From the inside, looking out of a window.
Yeah, right. Yeah. With a nice cup of hot chocolate sitting by a fireplace.
Downright cozy.
Sure. Yeah, very nice.
Out there doing PT is another thing.
Yeah, those early mornings, not so much fun. But yeah, so I learned a lot more, and what sold me was going up there for an official visit and talking with the coaches, and I even got to spend the night with a couple players, and just seeing the history there, the monuments, the buildings, just everything that was West Point, and learning like about previous graduates and who had walked the same halls and gone to the same classes that I potentially could go to as well. It just set everything else apart, and it's just something that I felt like I wanted to be a part of.
Now, is that the visit where you got to watch the game? Because I know there was another visit where they took you to basic training, and they want you to know, they want you to see right away, this is waiting for you when you get here, just so you know.
I mean, we had those conversations for sure.
They were honest.
As that was an honest and obvious part of what the experience would be like. I don't know if I think they probably to their benefit underestimated or undersold the extent of the military training. But no, they were very honest.
They got to dangle that carrot a little bit, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, not all stick.
Not going to make you too scared.
Exactly.
Right.
Didn't you know somebody who was going there at the time?
I did, yeah. So I knew, I forget the relationship, honestly, but a family member of some sort that he was a junior at the time, I believe, so I was able to call him up.
Get a little bit of an insight.
Exactly, get that inside knowledge and learn what life is really like versus what life is told to you by
the brochure.
What's in the glossy brochure? That's right.
By a coach that wants you to come and
yeah, there. Sure.
So, yeah, that's really what drew me in. I mean, the baseball was just kind of it was a big part of it, don't get me wrong, but it was... and I don't want to say secondary, but just another factor, like something that I would be able to do while I was there. But then everything else, like serving for minimum of 5, ended up doing almost 7, and then the prestige of the academics, the school itself, and everything that West Point is about as well was ultimately what made me there.
Well, and on the baseball side, you certainly had an impact. They ended up naming you to the all-decade team, right? Class of 2017. Did pretty good there. Hit .296 with 5 home runs, 72 RBIs, 106 runs, 43 stolen bases during a 4-year run. Did you enjoy playing baseball there?
I did. Yeah, it was a great time. I think the game, the sport was incredible, and then the teammates even more so incredible. The people that I met and played with and still keep in contact with, like just a group of guys that I will hope to be lifelong friends with. I think that in addition to the fun and enjoyment that came from playing the sport there was just one of those things that I'll always be thankful for.
I did the signing story on Kris, and like him, I knew there was an Army school, but I didn't know Army baseball. You know, you think of Army, Navy football, right?
Well, and
you don't think of any other sports.
I just had this conversation with my wife a few weeks ago, where she was like, "Is that not the Army Navy game? Isn't like soldiers playing?" No, it's a college.
Well, they are soldiers,
and they can be older too. Like
right.
It's a different kind of rule set. But you're right. It's if you're not used to that culture or understanding,
right. Or if you don't live in that area,
that's right. Yeah. It's kind of foreign.
So it was Joe Sotolano, is that how you say it? Mm-hmm. And he had, at that point, he had guided Army to the best 10-year stretch in school history. They had won at least 25 games every single year. The year before Kris joined them, they won a school record 41 games. And then they had tied or set 45 team, individual, or freshman academy records. They were going back. They were going to the NCAA regionals all the time. They were winning Patriot League championships. I think they had won 7. That was the most of any school. All those had come since '97. They'd captured 6 of the last 10 regular season titles. Their trip to the NCAA regionals was the 5th in 10 seasons. I mean, you weren't going there just I'll play baseball for Army. You were going to a really good Division I.
Some
of
those guys
program.
went to the majors as well, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, this was a big program.
Yeah, Kris Rowley was a 2012 grad, 12-13. He was our grad assistant my freshman year. And, he was the first one in a while, if not the first, to make it to the majors. And he was a pitcher and really inspirational to be able to see that career trajectory and just know that it's possible because, I mean, it's not coming out of a service academy, it's not always guaranteed that you even have the opportunity to go on and play professionally. But one of my teammates, class of 2020, Jacob Hurtubise, just made it up to the bigs this year.
Oh, wow.
For the Cincinnati Reds as an outfielder, and seeing a couple of the clips of him throwing out base runners at home plate, bang, bang plays, like really cool. Just to know that, like, hey, I played with that guy.
That's awesome.
Really cool to see him on.
What's that jump like from high school to Division I athletics?
It's big. It's a lot. I mean, I think my shout out to my coaches for preparing me as much as possible. But I mean, I don't think anything can actually prepare you until you are there and see it. It's just a different level of competition. And I mean, Patriot League was, to be honest, it's not the most competitive conference out there, but we did get to play a couple good teams. I played Miami my freshman year, I believe. Played at LSU senior year. So, I mean, that in itself was another jump up, just seeing the caliber between like our conference and the teams that we would regularly play versus those top tier schools was just, it's not a different game, but it's certainly a different level of competitiveness. So, I mean, we competed, but I mean, those teams were just unreal. I think LSU was single digit ranked at that point in the nation as well. So, some good teams.
And y'all, because you're I guess upstate New York is an exaggeration. You're north of the city.
Right.
The weather, you all played on the road to begin every season for a while, right?
Which was great. I mean, we came down to North Carolina quite a bit, so I got to play in front of family and friends quite often. 3 out of 4 years, we went down to Tampa for a spring break trip, which was a great time. Except for sophomore year, that was the broken jaw year. But no, it was great to be able to come down and see family, play in front of family, and get out of that 4 feet of snow on the ground weather. But yeah, we up there at that school, we did not get out until April, May sometimes.
How many games were you into the season before you got to play your first home game?
At least a month or so.
Wow.
So I mean, at that point, 15 or so games.
Northeast baseball.
It's a turf field now. They resurfaced it, so that helps. I'm sure they can plow it, but it was natural when I was there. And yeah,
was it too green?
Cold baseball is not fun. Hitting, fielding, taking the ball off the knee or something, not fun.
What was it like coming back here for the Hall of Fame this last night?
It's been really cool.
Yeah,
the welcome has been incredible. I mean, it's great to come back anytime. But just for this, to see people that I haven't seen in, I mean, at this point, 11 years, I guess, or sometimes longer, to see them. I mean, saw Sammy Teague on the sidelines, say hey to him, and just guys like that don't always get the opportunity to see very often. But no, it's the reception was incredible, being out on the field at halftime. Really cool experience.
Well, you talked about the visit and how you were kind of blown away, right, when the visit Army and the history and the beauty of it. And one of the cool things for you got to play in Johnson Stadium at Doubleday Field. At that point, college baseball today ranked as the 3rd best setting in all of Division I. What was it like playing there?
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The view over the Hudson, I mean, that's just a pretty spectacular view. I mean, that whole campus, like there's multiple trails that you can go up, and they call them readouts that were like, I guess, Revolutionary type war posts and forts where you can go up and just see the overview of like all the campus and baseball field, football field, and then the Hudson River, and then the mountains on the backside of the river. Just, yeah, it was pretty incredible. Beyond the left field wall, we always enjoyed, there was a building called Cullum Hall that it was just left field wall and then a street and then that building. So batting practice, we'd have some fun and just try to hit the building and knock them over the fence and just have a little fun with it there.
But and that field built in '39, so that was some history there, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm assuming amenities were a little tough as far as nothing new or fancy, huh?
I mean, the baseball facility was nice. Everything else not so much. The barracks rooms, the cafeteria, all that. I mean, it was cool. Like the architecture, incredible. Yeah, for sure. But I mean, I didn't have air conditioning for 4 years, which I mean, in the wintertime you don't need that, right. But it gets hot in the summertime too. There, 90, 100 degrees or so. But yeah, athletic facilities were really nice. They're doing a lot of renovations right now too. So, yeah.
And so not only are you trying to transition from high school to Division I baseball, which is, as you just said, is really tough, but also you're transitioning to this new lifestyle at Army where of the 4 years, freshman year is by far, right?
It's pretty bad. Yeah. I mean, not only is there the military training, so the first 6 weeks, I think, like the Beast Barracks, they call it, like their version of the basic training. I mean, it's early mornings to get up for physical training, and then just all day of learning military customs and courtesies and just the basics of being a future officer. Yeah, it was quite a bit, and there wasn't even really the thought of baseball during that time, unfortunately. So it was, you jumped right into doing that, which, like, as an athlete, you're going there like to play the sport. So it's kind of a pretty serious wake-up call when the first 6 weeks are military training only. It's just a different lifestyle.
And you're not allowed to, you're not allowed to contact people, right?
No, you can't. I think you get like one call during the midway point, like after 3 weeks, and then you're back to 3 weeks of no contact. I think one of the worst things about that whole year was you couldn't leave, like you weren't allowed to take a pass but once per semester. It's like you couldn't leave the campus once, twice in the year. So fortunately with baseball and all the other athletes that were able to travel like that, was able to get out and get away from that place, especially in the wintertime, the gray period, as we called it, which was not the most exciting time to be there. But yeah, it was that fall semester, like we didn't travel a whole lot. I mean, there's not a whole lot for fall baseball, but springtime was really nice.
Sunny Miami, sunny Louisiana.
Yeah. It made it a lot more bearable for sure. So, but I mean, you get more privileges, I guess, as the years go on. So I mean, it definitely got better, but still, there was always the military aspect and summer training. Didn't get a whole lot of free time during the summers. Just not your normal college experience, but super thankful. Like, I mean, I had a great time and met some incredible people, and it's an awesome experience. Like, I'm happy I made that decision to go there. Pros and cons, you know.
Was there any point during freshman year where you said, "Man, I have chosen poorly here. I've made a real bad mistake"?
There was never a point where it was like, I don't want to do this anymore. There was always opportunity and potential, and I mean, I think achieved that success to a degree, and still it's beneficial as well with even after the Army, the network, the people that you meet and have similar backgrounds with, just in industry as well. It's I've seen it in the last year or so. It's been incredibly beneficial, just being able to talk to someone just based off their background and look them up on LinkedIn and say, hey, they went to West Point. Like, reach out to them and be like, hey, I saw your background, you went to West Point. Like, do you have like 15 minutes to talk. Like, would love to get your thoughts on whatever.
Sure.
And they were like, yeah, sure, happy to talk. And talking to a couple of my teammates as well, we're trying to set up a networking specifically for baseball right now, just a program so that any questions that current or I guess future like recruits have, they can reach out to us, to the current players or former players and graduates, that if they just want to know something about West Point specifically, whether it's the branching process or summers military training or military career, or even after military career and the job search and that transition from military to civilian life, just being able to provide that resource, because it's not an easy transition by any means. There's, you can get into a lot of stuff, but it's just, as you can imagine, a different lifestyle. Like ever since starting West Point, like really someone has told you where to be, when to be there, and what to wear. Like there was never any thought of that. So having to really, not that there wasn't thinking for yourself, and it's not robotic or anything, but there's just a different mindset and perspective that you have to have versus while you're in the Army versus outside. So it's a significant transition. And I mean, I was able to call on my teammates and just other West Point grads that I did not know at the time, but just was able to reach out and have those conversations, and they have been extremely helpful, and would love to be able to provide that knowledge and experience and guidance, I guess, as well to others. So
I guess there's some solace in looking to the guy to your left and looking to the guy right. Like we're all suffering together. We're all going through the same thing.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're ultimately working towards the same objectives, the same goal. I mean, it's all about teamwork, both baseball and outside of the sport, just in the military life in general. Like just, I mean, that's a huge part of the leadership aspect, is bringing together people to motivate them to work towards the one objective and one goal, or even multiple goals, but at least working together. So yeah, you're going through the suck, embracing the suck together.
And you had a lot of North Carolina guys. You had guys from Wilson Hunt, Ardrey Kell, West Rowan, Southeast Guilford, South Caldwell, Charlotte Catholic. Did they help having some North Carolina guys?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we had a lot of conversations about Cheerwine and Bojangles and all the other North Carolina specific amenities, I guess. So no, it was really fun, and it's always enjoyable to reach out to those guys now. But yeah, it was nice because we would like travel together. Like our parents would all come to the games that we played in around the state. We had some like North Carolina specific get-togethers and like cookout, barbecue type stuff. So yeah, that certainly helped.
And Kris was a bit of a nerd. He was the Eagle Scout. He had a 4.62 GPA, like top 20 in his class. So you were going to go somewhere where you were going to make sure you got a good education, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't forget about that.
Yeah.
It's certainly part of it.
And that continued at Army. He was getting stuff on the field, off the field. He was Patriot League Scholar Athlete of the Year. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Zach mentioned the All-Decade Team. I mean, you name it, he was getting awards. It felt like, I felt like I was doing a story on Kris about 3 times a year where he was getting some Patriot League award or some all-academic award. So felt like you've done well and thrived in college.
Yeah, it was a good 4 years. Unfortunately, we had a little bit of a drought when it came to conference championships.
Oh, no, it came to an end, huh?
Well, not an end for me.
Yeah.
But I mean, since then, the last 6 years, they've won conference championships and gone to regionals last 6 years in a row. So it's great to see the program, I won't say rebounding, but having that success that that was prior to me getting there, and then also after my 4 years there. So unfortunately, never got to go to a regional. Would have been a cool experience, but happy that the team is very successful now.
At what point during the 4 years there are you starting to transition from, okay, baseball's great and awesome and stuff, but I'm really need to start thinking about my career and what I'm going to be doing after?
Yeah, I mean, there was always the opportunity to continue baseball afterwards. I think there were a couple congressional decisions that were like, they made it wishy-washy as far as like from service academies, could you go and play professionally? You know, some people did like the 2 years in the reserves and then could go play, or did reserves while you were playing. And my junior and senior year, they made some decisions that were good and then also some that were bad. So it was just unclear of the opportunities beyond college baseball. I always knew, well, not always, but most of the time that I was there, I knew that I probably was not going to have a lengthy professional career. Yeah. I didn't think that was the route that I would go and have a successful 20-year career in the big leagues and not have to be in the Army at all. It would have been great, but I was also realistic about that as well. So, I mean, at the beginning of your junior year, you sign that commitment. So freshman and sophomore year, if you decide to leave West Point, there's no harm, no foul. You can leave. At the beginning of your junior year, that's when you sign the commitment to say, hey, I'm going to finish junior and senior year, and then I'm going to serve 5 years minimum active duty. So at that point, I knew I was locked in.
Sure.
The only thing...
Did you ever waffle on that, or did you ever think about that?
Not really.
Yeah.
No. You have a good idea, I think, even prior to going there, like prior to your freshman year.
Sure.
Your desire to serve, I guess. And then freshman and sophomore year, you get that actual experience and know, like, generally what it's going to be like.
And that's being reinforced while you're there.
Exactly.
While you're here. And
it's not a decision that you're unprepared for by any means, but certainly a massive decision, because that affects the next 7 years of your life or longer.
Yeah.
But no, I personally did not have any hesitancy. It was just another signature that the Army needed.
What's the post-graduation transition like? I mean, you graduate, May?
Yeah, so I graduated into May. It depends on your branch. So you could go one of 17 branches within the Army, anything from infantry, field artillery, engineers, to adjutant general, which is like human resources or finance or cyber. A lot of different options there. I was aviation, so I went to flight school about a month after graduation and started with what they called BOLIC, or Basic Officer Leadership Course. Did that for a few weeks, and then I started the actual like flight school progression. So that started out with SEER school, survive, evade, resist, escape for a few weeks, which was terrible experience, but also really cool and learned a lot. And then what they call Dunker, which is a week-long course of basically if you crash in a helicopter over water, it flips upside down, and then you have to get out of your seatbelt and egress and all of that. So fortunately that didn't happen in real life. And then after that was the actual flight school, and started flying Lakotas and then on to Blackhawks the following year.
I'm curious because you experienced the transition from high school athletics to Division I athletics, and it was stark night and day. Was it a little bit night and day between being at West Point and the training that was involved there versus once you were out in the field?
It was a lot different. The training at West Point was more geared towards becoming an infantry officer, so all the sleeping in the fields under the stars and lack of sleep and patrolling and weapons familiarization and a bunch of shooting, and there's part of that in aviation, but not a whole lot of it, which is really nice, and part of the reason why I wanted to. So
you got to choose aviation.
Yeah, so you select, or you're able to put in your preferences, and then based on your order of merit, your academics, your military, and your physical are the three like categories that they judge that it accumulates to your overall order of merit. So then they use your selection or your preferences and then kind of say like, hey, did this guy...
But that was your first choice?
It was,
yeah. Good.
Yeah, so I think something like 85% of cadets get their first choice.
Okay.
Okay.
Another benefit of being at West Point versus, however other modes of entry.
Yeah, so It is different from ROTC. I think similar but different in just the amount of slots and the like. There's so many more aviation slots, like or the sought after branches like military intelligence and those sorts of occupations that West Point does have. It does set you up pretty well for entry into the Army. So not that you can't do any of that out from ROTC, but just a lot more opportunity outside of West Point. So.
And were you in Washington the whole time after college?
Mostly, yeah. So flight school was in Alabama. Did that for a year and a half, then went out to Washington, Joint Base Lewis McChord, 3 or so years, and then back to Alabama for Captain's Career Course for 6 months. Back to Washington, and then a little bit of time in Korea, and then finished out my time in Washington. So a bunch of travel within the U.S. between during that time, Louisiana, California, Kansas, Colorado. So gotten to travel quite a bit.
And did 7 years, is that what you said?
7 years.
Yeah.
Just
and what was the thought process at that point of saying I'm good?
Flying decreases the longer you stay in, the amount of flying. So there's just, that was a lot of fun. Flying was.
And you get behind a desk and you're like, okay, well.
Right.
This is not
so
what I signed up for.
You're more in the management oversight positions the longer you stay in. And that 5 to 10 year mark or so is still, it's a good transition point, I guess, because you're still like you have some experience, but then you're also early enough along in your career where a company it's not like you're going into this company as a 45, 50-year-old person and only give them 10 years. Like there's still plenty of opportunity for growth and a long career with that company.
Did you go to the private sector or you just okay?
I did. Yep. So I did there's actually a Service Academy career conference that I learned about. It's just a career conference, and you have to have gone to a service academy, which I did not know about until about 2 weeks before this one in November. So I met a company called Spire at this conference, and I was able to do a fellowship with them for a couple months in the February, April of this year time frame, and I started full-time in July.
What are you doing for them?
I'm in a business development role, so talking out customer-facing, trying to generate revenue. I'm on the federal team, so working with the U.S. government.
I was going to say, with being at that conference, I imagine that they're looking for people with your experience to speak with other people in that same, at least, field or industry.
It does align well. It doesn't align completely by any means. Like this company is a space industry company, so they build satellites and then sell payload space or data collected from satellites tracking vessels and planes. So a lot of Department of Defense and intelligence applications, as well as research labs and universities to look into like pattern of life and trends and traffic and air, maritime and air traffic management, that kind of stuff. So it aligns because a lot of people I talk to have a military background, or at least like familiar. They've been in that industry for a long time. But I mean, I don't know anything about. Then I didn't know anything about satellites or radio frequency.
Well, you're working up the chain. You got infantry and the flying, and now in space. I mean, my goodness.
We'll see what's next.
We can't talk about that. That's whatever's next has got to be totally off the books.
Space exploration, Mars missions.
Sure. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah, so it's been really cool, and I mean, West Point was the stepping stone to that. I mean, you can obviously have a very successful career in the military and do that your entire life, really. But it's not for everyone. Just as like a civilian job isn't for everyone either. So, but West Point definitely sets you up for that military career. But I mean, once you graduate, it's on you too. Like you've got to continue to be that person and that people look up to and maintain that character and leadership qualities and just have that success. Like it's not given by any means.
That 7 years is in addition to 4 at Army.
Yes.
Has it been a challenge acclimating post 11 years? Like, what do I do with my hands? Kinda.
What do I wear?
Yeah,
honestly,
sure. It's
probably
2:00. I have no set schedule. I don't know what I'm supposed to. Yeah.
Not having to shave has been quite
nice.
Hey.
Hence the beard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's been nice. But yeah, like something as simple as like, what do I wear today?
Sure.
Having to figure that out. Like that's just something that in the last 11 years I've never really had to worry about. It's just put your uniform of the day, whatever that is, on, and whether you're flying or not, or it's dress day or whatever it is. So now it's like,
redeveloping some executive functioning muscles there.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I gotta match colors.
Yeah.
All that stuff. It's like,
Am I doing this right?
Yeah.
I mean, just expanding my wardrobe too.
Sure.
It's not cheap either.
And you've been out for what, like 8 months, 6 months?
Since April, so.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
4 or 5 months now.
Okay.
So.
You're fresh off the boat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Do you miss flying?
I do.
Yeah.
That's pros and cons to being in, but flying was definitely a pro. It was pretty.
Is that something you think you might take up in civilian life?
Potentially.
Yeah.
It's difficult to maintain currency and ratings, and it's also insanely expensive.
Right.
Renting the plane, fuel.
Not a cheap hobby, yeah.
No. So it would be more accessible, like if I wanted to go to the airlines or something, and then have them pay for the training and transition.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot that goes into that, from helicopters to large jet planes. It's different controls and different ratings.
Well, that's what I was going to ask too. Was it strictly choppers, or was it okay?
Yeah, just helicopters. Army doesn't have a whole lot of fixed wing options. They do, but it's not very many people that are able to go that route. So it would be quite the transition to the airlines, but we'll see. You never know.
Well, the sky's wide open, right? I mean,
let's wrap up with some rapid fire here. Best high school guys you ever went up against? Anybody stand out?
Like opposing teams, you mean?
Uh-huh.
I can't remember his name. Something King, maybe, comes to mind. But he was the pitcher for Wilson Fike.
Okay.
Freshman year, the first game in the playoffs, after we went 14-0 in conference.
Oh, you thought you were going to roll?
I mean, we were pretty confident at that point. It was unfortunate to lose the first game out of conference play, but yeah, he was a pretty solid pitcher. It's been a while, but then also a guy from D.H. Conley, I believe, ended up going to East Carolina.
Josh King. Wilson Fike.
Okay.
Yeah, apparently he was pretty good over there.
That's some rapid fire research
with the
over
Golden
there.
Demons. In fact, he helped them win a state championship. My bad. He won a high jump and triple jump state championship.
Oh, okay.
All around athlete.
Sure.
You don't hear that much with pitchers.
No. So.
Wow. Wait a minute. Do I have the right person here?
Right, that's a big school,
I don't think I got the right
gosh.
person. You said King, and I looked up Wilson Fike, so obviously this has got to be a different person altogether. Never mind. I don't think this is a pitcher. Just another King at Wilson Fike who was really good.
You don't think about pitchers being the most athletic people all the time.
My bad.
That guy's cousin
some
or something.
Are.
Apparently he was a good basketball player too, which that makes sense. But I don't. I'm scrolling here. I don't see baseball, so no. This is just another really good King at Wilson Wilson Fike. Never mind. That would have been a good story. Triple jump, high jump, and one of the best pitchers you've ever run across. Okay, and a D.H. Conley kid, you said.
Yeah. If you said his name, I'd know what it was. But I remember Coach Hart from NC State came in and watched us at a game here where we played, I believe it was Conley, and he was pitching, and obviously I was hitting, and I think he got me the first few at bats, but then I ended up hitting a triple off of him the last at bat of the game, I believe. So it was a good back and forth battle.
How about college? Best guys you went up against?
LSU, I would say.
SEC baseball.
That was we played a doubleheader with them. Their second pitcher no hit us, So not the greatest showing, but I mean, just a different caliber. I mean, it's all D1, but like Patriot League versus SEC, like it's just a different caliber.
Yeah, guys, we're just happy to be in the sunshine. That's fine.
I mean, playing at Alex Box Stadium, like, incredible experience.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, they were good though. Yeah. They had some good players. Miami too. I think they had like 9 guys that got drafted out of that team. Their catcher, I think Zach Thomas was his name. Some pretty incredible players.
And you and injuries in sophomore year have got something in common. So when he was at Army, he dives into a fence pole going for a foul ball and breaks his jaw. Mm-hmm. And had that wired shut for 6 weeks. What's it like having your jaw wired shut for 6 weeks?
It's not fun. Liquid diet.
And you were already like 5'11", 170 when you were playing days, right?
So I lost a little bit of weight, as you can imagine. I ended up putting it back on, most of it, during that following 6 weeks, because I ate a lot of peanut butter. I think that's what did it. But I would go through one of those jars of peanut butter just about every week.
Jeez.
Just blending up like any kind of milkshake I could. And yeah, I experimented too with some things that I probably am not too proud to say I tried to put in a blender because I was
some
just
type of
like,
meat,
some chicken, some pizza, which did not go over well. But it's like after weeks of eating the same thing over and over again, like just wanting to.
20-year-old kids will get some ideas like that.
Exactly.
You never know, right? Let's try.
Exactly. So no, not the best time ever. Glad. Hope.
Really,
I don't wish that upon.
Really went after that foul ball, huh?
It's going pretty fast. My teammates swear they were calling fence and letting me know. Some adrenaline probably that didn't allow me to realize what was going on or how close I was to the fence. So just really unfortunate, but. Yeah, something about sophomore year.
Well, Kris, man, it was always a blast covering you in high school and college. Congrats on the Hall of Fame induction. It's well deserved.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me. Couldn't have done it without a lot of people in my life. So thank you to all of them, and see a lot of them this evening at the reception.